I understand you perfectly, especially at the moment when you can't cope. I understand that you find yourself extremely tired, that you don't have the energy to do absolutely anything other than wasting your precious time living in the parallel reality offered by toxic social networks. Yes, I know that procrastination has become the reigning norm in your life, leaving your obligations postponed day after day and neglecting important aspects of your life, such as carving out an educational path or finding a decent job with which you can earn a living. You surf through reality as if nothing mattered to you, completely forgetting the aroma of a productive day and the delicious taste of living life intensely. Fatigue is a condition that used to be associated with the elderly and nursing homes, but it is spreading like a lethal pandemic among young people aged 15, 20, and 25. Do you want to know something? I also find myself like this on many occasions, so trying to give the most reliable answer possible along with Stoic philosophy, I will try to offer you the reasons why we find ourselves too tired for no apparent reason, as if we were a coffee maker that has been unplugged. In today's episode, I want to give you an honest answer to the central question of this video: why do we always feel so fatigued, and how can we access an unlimited source of energy? I have managed to discern a correlation between energy and motivation, as Epictetus taught us well. We do not have the power to control what happens outside of us, but we do have the power to choose our response and our habits. When you have little energy, you have little motivation. When you have a lot of motivation, you tend to have energy, and vice versa. But before I start the content, I would be extremely grateful if you could give it a thumbs up, as this helps me bring this philosophy to more people. If you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe and hit the bell. This is Stoic Value. Let's begin. Now, let's explore various points from a scientific and philosophical perspective, as the Stoics proposed. Seneca, in his treatise on the shortness of life, reminds us that it is not that we have little time, but that we waste much, especially on trivialities and increasingly unproductive habits that make us tired and not take advantage of our day-to-day life fruitfully. So, let's look at several points from the perspective of science, not only to increase and maintain balanced levels of energy throughout your day but also to increase your motivation. Let's start with the first one: digital exposure is the real leech of your energy. As Marcus Aurelius said, concentrate on what you have to do. When you walk, walk. When you eat, eat. Do not let your mind wander to other things while you are busy with a task. Focus on the here and now and do it with diligence and dedication. Focus your energy on what you can change and act with determination. So, are you willing to regain control over your energy and motivation? Keep in mind that excessive digital exposure can be harmful in multiple aspects, especially when it deregulates the dopamine segregation systems. To understand it better, it's essential to know that the feeling of fatigue can be mostly psychological. As Seneca said, it's not that life is short, but that we shorten it with bad habits. For example, our brain evaluates the effort required to carry out an action and emits a signal of tiredness indicating low energy. Surprisingly, frequent phone use is what most increases the frequency of this signal. As we know, dopamine is the neurotransmitter that anticipates the reward we will get from performing an action, that is, the pleasure we will experience. As Epictetus affirmed, we do not have the power to control all circumstances, but we do have the power to decide what attitude we will take towards them. Modern activities such as the consumption of ultra-processed foods, the use of adult content, and social networks are designed to stimulate high dopamine release, thus creating dependence. The problem lies in that we then lack motivation and energy to undertake challenging tasks that, in the long run, provide much deeper satisfactions than simply swiping profiles on Instagram. The peculiar thing is that the brain does not distinguish activities based on the progress they will provide us in the long run or future positive outcomes, but by the immediate pleasure they will provide. For this reason, we tend to opt for phone use. However, when we need to work or study, by obligation or choice, the brain emits the signal of tiredness when calculating the necessary effort to release dopamine in a productive activity. This is the reason why we must restrict phone use to avoid accustoming the brain to receiving gratifications without prior effort. Here is where the important daily routine of Marcus Aurelius comes into play, in which his strict discipline will allow you the dopamine segregation systems video available in my content, with which you will understand more about what I mean. However, if you are a beginner, I recommend a dopamine detox consisting of 1 day a week without dopamine sources such as social networks and the damn phone. You will observe how little by little you will feel better and less tired. It seems incredible, but it's true, with just 1 day a week. However, for those experienced like me, I recommend a dopamine fast for 1 week without social networks. You will observe how the change will be drastic and very positive while you avoid having daily mental fatigue that consumes you in less than no time. As Seneca very well taught us, discipline is the means of our salvation. Let's move on to the second step. Having a routine is not simply being human. As Marcus Aurelius advised, if you are disturbed by something external, it is not the event itself that disturbs you but your judgment about it. Many enthusiasts of the relaxed life, like hippies, advise us to go with the flow in the morning, allowing our bodies to move freely. Many of them would tell us to go with the flow in the morning, to let our bodies flow. This is appropriate for rest days or even for a week during summer vacations. However, it is unsustainable for the rest of the year when we have to fulfill our obligations, whether family or work-related. It's not so much about productivity as it is about the viability of this lifestyle for our well-being, prosperity, and happiness. As Seneca would say, life is like a theater performance. It doesn't matter how long it lasts, but how well it has been played. Have you noticed how after 2 months of summer, one longs to return to routine despite the added luxury and flexibility in diet? We need to feel a structure in our day. We are creatures of habit, and this is not a matter of preference but biological necessity. As Marcus Aurelius said, happiness lies in activity, in production linked to a purpose, not in indolent leisure. The brain seeks to economize energy to invest it in what truly matters. In ancient times, it was about protecting the family from a lion. Today, it is about being productive during work hours, as otherwise, there is a risk of losing the job. Every decision entails an expenditure of energy, willpower, and discipline, resources that are depleted like a muscle. As Epictetus said, if you lack a routine from dawn and make decisions at random, you are diminishing the capacity to face truly significant choices and those that will lead to progress. Have you noticed how the wise dress almost always the same way? They seek to minimize trivial decision-making to focus on what really matters. As Seneca used to say, life is hard, and living it is even harder, so we have to be prepared for anything. In other words, if from the start of the day you follow a routine to transition from sleep to activity and at night another to go from hustle to calm and restorative sleep, you will find it much easier to conserve the necessary energy for the essentials. As a good Stoic, the power of discipline will help you end fatigue, and although it is not an easy task, it requires effort and dedication, but I guarantee that the fruits of this continued labor are extremely sweet. However, following a routine to the letter is not the only crucial pillar. The source of vitality lies in restful and consistent sleep. It is useless if you are going to be hooked watching until the wee hours of the morning and then want to get up and take on the world. I predict you will be shattered, and your day will become a real torture from start to finish because fatigue will take hold of you. As Seneca said, life is nothing but the training for death. It is as if each of us were rehearsing how to live. Every time I remember my youth when I senselessly altered my sleeping hours, going to bed at 12 one day and at 4 another, I feel a pang in my heart. We should receive much more education at school and university about sleep, as it is the fundamental basis of our vitality, and without it, we are absolutely nothing. As Marcus Aurelius said, if you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to the opinion of others, you will never be rich, or in other words, no one has achieved overnight success without previous sacrifice, where trial and error, along with a strict routine, have been their great weapons in the search for triumph. To fight fatigue, it is essential to understand that sleep is divided into circadian cycles of approximately an hour and a half each. Therefore it is advised to sleep between 4, 5, and 6 of these cycles. Personally, I rest for 5 or even 6 circadian cycles, which equals 7.5 hours throughout the week, and 9 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. Keep in mind that Marcus Aurelius rested a lot for the simple reason of finding absolute lucidity in his decisions, as ruling an empire is not an easy task. To improve sleep quality, experts recommend establishing regular schedules for going to bed and waking up, and turning off any digital device at least 2 hours before sleeping is essential, not just bright light but bright light in general, which can harm your sleep. So, drastically reduce exposure to light. Caffeine consumption should stop 8 hours before going to sleep. As Seneca said, life is not long, but it can be deep. A revelation that deeply impacted me was that consuming coffee in the first hour and a half after waking up can lead to a crash around 3 or 4 in the afternoon after eating. This crash we all experience depends not only on what we eat at that time, which we will address later in this episode, but also on if we drink coffee right after waking up. As Epictetus would say, the first step towards freedom is realizing one is a slave to their habits. One who does not realize their enslavement cannot be free. Furthermore, to avoid the fatigue many of us have, which I include myself in, it is advised to expose ourselves to natural sunlight once we wake up. This awakens a series of mechanisms and circuits that allow us to maintain elevated energy levels throughout the day. Living in harmony with natural rhythms, as the Stoics did, in tune with dawn and dusk, is fundamental. If we align ourselves with nature, we'll avoid many of the diseases of the modern, digitalized society. Now let's move on to the last but crucial step, exercise and nutrition. It's paradoxical that people come to this video seeking more energy, but when they reach this topic, they already know it beforehand and abandon the video. See the contradiction. If they already know the importance of exercise and nutrition, why are they looking for solutions for lack of energy? As Marcus Aurelius stated, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's possible they are not following this habit meticulously. I think I understand the reason for this paradox. Exercising increases our energy, and reducing the frequency of our meals also increases it. Here lies this small contradiction: spending more energy on physical activity increases our vitality, just as shortening the time we eat is intriguing. Experts advise us to start the morning practicing sports, a habit I personally do shortly after waking up. Also, integrating intermittent fasting into your routine can be very beneficial. It's not about reducing the amount of food but narrowing the time frame in which you eat. In my case, it now ranges between 6 to 8 or 10 hours at night, depending on the day. So, when we face a challenging situation, it's not about the situation itself but how we choose to see it and respond to it. What I recommend, because it has worked for me and is backed by several experts, is to increase protein intake and reduce the intake of fast-absorbing carbohydrates. Those that cause insulin spikes or have a high glycemic index should be avoided. Prioritize slow-absorbing carbohydrates like oatmeal, which is an excellent choice. Finally, we arrive at the last but not least important point: your environment. I would like to emphasize the importance of taking care of your environment. As Seneca said, the best revenge is to be unlike the adversary. The people around you have a significant impact on your energy levels. Have you ever noticed that with certain people you feel full of euphoria, excitement, and motivation to do things, while with others you feel like a vegetable without energy? This is because people transmit their energy to us, and it is very noticeable. If I meet someone who always tells me their sorrows and is down with their daily problems, in the end, I'll end up like them. In essence, we are energy, and we must manifest this through the perspective with which each of us approaches life. From this situation, something positive can arise, as the ancient Stoics taught us. In times of adversity, we find opportunities to grow and strengthen. As Marcus Aurelius said, the obstacle is the way. Watching this content is a fruitful and positive way to maintain optimal levels of energy and motivation, aligning with the Stoic principle of self-mastery. As Seneca expressed, the wise man is self-sufficient. This may inspire you, motivate you, or even teach you something new. As Epictetus pointed out, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Personally, when I see subscribers sharing enthusiastic comments about my videos, it motivates me to continue. I imagine something similar happens to you. As Seneca stated, motivation gets you started, habit keeps you going. Let's nurture this relationship to cultivate together prosperous, productive, and energetic lives in harmony with Stoic belief in virtue and wisdom as sources of true prosperity. I want to express my sincere thanks for your attention and for choosing to watch this video and listen to my words during these minutes. I sincerely appreciate your time and dedication. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, we cannot choose our start in life, but we can choose how to go through it. I wish you a rewarding experience applying the suggestions I've shared, whether to improve your habits, establish a reactivation or deactivation routine, or regulate your dopamine segregation systems. All this is focused on elevating your levels of productivity, prosperity, and quality of life in line with Stoic philosophy that seeks inner peace and harmony with nature. As Zeno of Citium said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without an anxious dependence on the future. What habits do you practice to achieve this? Is there anything preventing you from practicing them? I look forward to your response in the comments. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave your comment for possible topics of interest, and share it with someone who could benefit from these teachings. I also leave you 2 videos that might be interesting for you. See you in the next one.